me.
I live every day. I cannot love a maid. And yet, you have taken possession of me.
They tried to keep this buried. They couldn't. The trailer does not open the way you expect it to. There is no sweeping orchestra, no candlelit ballroom, no stolen glance across a crowded room that makes your chest ache in that particular way that only Bridgerton knows how to manufacture. None of that. What the leaked trailer for Bridgerton Season 4 Part 2 opens with is something far more unsettling. It opens with Sophie's face, still, unreadable, and completely devastatingly alone. And that image alone tells you that everything has changed. Because the Sophie we watched in Part 1, the one who moved through Bridgerton House with that quiet, careful grace, the one who carried her circumstances without complaint and her dignity without performance, that Sophie is still here. But something inside her has shifted in a way that cannot be undone. The warmth is still present if you look hard enough, but it is buried now, pushed down beneath layers of something harder and colder and far more honest. This is not a woman who has given up. This is a woman who has finally, fully understood exactly where she stands. And that understanding has cost her something she will never get back. The emotional distance that the leaked trailer establishes in its very first moments is not accidental. It is deliberate. It is the show communicating something directly to the audience before a single line of dialogue is spoken. It is telling you that the story you thought you were watching in Part 1 was only half the picture. The comfortable half. The half where you could still believe that love might be simple enough to survive on its own. Part 2 is not interested in that version of the story anymore. Part 2 is here to show you what happens after the warmth runs out. What remains when two people who should have chosen each other are standing on opposite sides of a silence that neither of them knows how to break. Benedict Bridgerton, for his part, looks like a man who has not slept in weeks. And not in the romantic, brooding way that period dramas sometimes romanticize. In the real way. The hollow-eyed, quietly devastated way of someone who lies awake at night replaying every moment where he had a choice and made the wrong one. The leaked trailer reportedly captures him in these unguarded moments, and they are not flattering. They are not designed to make you sympathize with him immediately or forgive him quickly. They are designed to make you understand that he finally understands. That the guilt he is carrying is not the performative kind that dissolves the moment someone offers him reassurance. It is the kind that has settled into his bones. The kind that only lifts when something is actually done to fix what was broken. And what was broken between Benedict and Sophie is not a small thing. It was not a misunderstanding or a moment of poor timing or a difference in opinion that could be resolved over a tense but ultimately productive conversation in a well-lit drawing room. What happened between them was a failure of courage. His failure. And Sophie, who has spent her entire life surviving other people's failures, absorbed that one too. Quietly. Without drama. The way she absorbs everything that the world throws at her because she has never been given the luxury of falling apart. That is the emotional landscape the leaked trailer is dropping the audience into before the plot has even begun to move. And it is heavy. It is genuinely, almost unbearably heavy, because you can feel the weight of everything that was almost something beautiful, sitting in the space between two people who are standing close enough to touch and still somehow miles apart. But here's the thing about Part 2 that the leaked trailer makes immediately, unmistakably clear. The emotional distance between Benedict and Sophie is not the story. It is the backdrop. It is the ground that everything else is going to be fought on. Because while these two people are navigating the wreckage of what they almost had, something else entirely is already in motion. Something that was set in motion long before Part 1 ever began. Something that has been waiting, patient and deliberate and absolutely merciless for exactly the right moment to surface. And that moment, according to everything that has leaked, is now. Sophie's past, the parts of it she knows and the parts of it she has never been allowed to know, is no longer staying buried. Someone has disturbed it. Someone with a reason. Someone with a plan. And when the consequences of that disturbance begin to arrive, they are not going to arrive gently. They are not going to give Sophie time to prepare, or time to protect herself, or time to decide how she wants to face what is coming. They are simply going to arrive, all at once, the way the most devastating things always do. So ask yourself this: If Sophie's entire life was built on a lie she was never told, what happens when the person who told that lie decides the time? The accusation does not arrive with evidence. It never does. That is the thing about accusations in a world like the one Bridgerton inhabits, a world built on whispers and drawing room politics, and the carefully maintained illusion that reputation is the same thing as character. In that world, you do not need proof to destroy someone. You only need timing. You only need the right words delivered to the right people at the right moment, wrapped in just enough plausibility to make questioning it feel uncomfortable. And Sophie's stepmother, Lady Araminta, has always understood this. She has always known exactly how this world works, exactly where its pressure points are, and exactly how much damage a single well-placed lie can do when it lands in fertile soil. So she does not come with documents. She does not come with witnesses or ledgers or any of the hard, verifiable things that could be examined and challenged and ultimately dismantled. She comes with something far more dangerous. She comes with a story, and the story she tells is this: that Sophie, the quiet, dignified, impossibly composed young woman who somehow found herself living under the roof of one of London's most prominent families, did not arrive there by accident or circumstance, or the complicated chain of events that the audience watched unfold in Part 1. She arrived there, according to Lady Araminta, by design, by deception, and she did not come alone. She came with stolen property. She came as a thief. The word lands like a stone dropped into still water, and the ripples it creates move outward immediately, touching everything and everyone connected to Sophie before she has had a single moment to respond. Because this is the particular cruelty of the accusation that the leaked trailer captures so precisely and so painfully. It is not just that it is false. It is that it is false in a way that is almost impossible to disprove quickly, in a world that moves at the speed of gossip and makes its judgments before the accused has even been told what they are accused of. Sophie is not given a warning. She is not given a private moment to hear the charge and compose herself and decide how she wants to face it. The accusation reaches the ears of society at the same moment it reaches hers. She finds out she is being called a thief the same way everyone else does, publicly, in company, with eyes already turning toward her to watch how she reacts, because her reaction will be used as further evidence no matter what it is. If she shows emotion, she is guilty and knows it. If she shows composure, she is cold and calculated, and that composure itself becomes proof of premeditation. The trap is perfect. It was designed to be. Lady Araminta did not construct this accusation carelessly or in a moment of spite. She constructed it the way someone constructs a thing they intend to last, deliberately, with patience, with a complete and intimate understanding of exactly how much damage it would do and exactly why Sophie would have almost no way to defend herself against it. And what makes it even more devastating, what makes the leaked trailer's depiction of this moment reportedly so difficult to watch, is that Sophie knows this too. She understands immediately, in that quiet and terrible way that survivors of cruelty always understand, exactly what is happening and exactly why it is happening now. This is not random. This is not impulsive. Lady Araminta has chosen this moment with precision, and the precision of it tells Sophie everything she needs to know about how long this has been coming and how thoroughly it has been planned. She has not just been attacked. She has been hunted. And the hunt began long before anyone in Bridgerton House had any idea it was happening. The world around Sophie, meanwhile, does exactly what the world always does when a story is more interesting than the truth. It leans in. The whispers begin almost immediately according to the leaked trailer details, moving through drawing rooms and morning calls and the carefully curated social gatherings where London's elite perform their concern for one another while quietly sharpening their judgments. The people who smiled at Sophie 2 days ago are now watching her with a different kind of attention. Not hostile exactly, something worse than hostile. Curious. The detached, almost clinical curiosity of people who have decided that the outcome of this situation is entertainment rather than injustice, and who are waiting to see how it unfolds with the comfortable distance of those who know it will never touch them personally. This is the world Benedict has to watch Sophie navigate. And according to the leaked trailer details, watching it break something open in him that had been building since the moment he made the choice that cost her. Because this is the consequence of his fear made visible and undeniable. This is what it looks like when someone without protection faces a world that has anxiety. This is the world Benedict has to watch Sophie navigate. And according to the leaked trailer details, watching it break something open in him that had been building since the moment he made the choice that cost her. Because this is the consequence of his fear made visible and undeniable. This is what it looks like when someone without protection faces a world that has decided it does not need to be fair. Sophie is standing in the middle of it with that composure that has always been her greatest defense and her most heartbreaking quality. And Benedict is standing close enough to see that the composure is costing her everything she has. She is holding herself together through sheer force of will, and the will is not infinite, and he knows it. And he knows that he is partly responsible for the fact that she is standing there alone. His anger, when it comes, is not loud. The leaked trailer details are very specific about this. It is not the kind of anger that makes a scene or demands an audience or performs itself for the benefit of onlookers. It is the quiet, controlled, almost cold fury of someone who has moved past the point of emotional reaction and arrived somewhere more purposeful and more dangerous. He is not angry in a way that needs to be expressed. He is angry in a way that needs to be acted on. And that distinction between the anger that speaks and the anger that moves is what makes this version of Benedict so entirely different from the man who hesitated when it mattered most. Because he is not hesitating now, not even slightly. The calculation that once paralyzed him, the careful weighing of social consequence against personal feeling, the quiet arithmetic of what he could afford to lose versus what he could afford to keep, all of it is gone. Burned away by the sight of Sophie standing in the middle of a lie while the world watches and decides whether it cares enough to question it. Benedict has made his decision. And for the first time in this entire story, the decision he is making is the right one. Not the safe one, not the comfortable one, the right one. But decisions, no matter how resolute, are only as powerful as the actions that follow them. And what Benedict is about to discover, as he begins pulling at the threads of this accusation, looking for the lie underneath it, is that the lie underneath it is not small. It is not a simple falsehood that can be corrected with a direct conversation or a well-timed social intervention. The lie underneath Lady Araminta's accusation is enormous. It is structural. It goes back further than anyone has thought to look, and it implicates not just Sophie's present circumstances, but the entire foundation of her existence in this world. The necklace is the beginning, a small, almost unremarkable detail that the leaked trailer reportedly lingers on with a kind of quiet deliberateness that signals immediately to anyone paying attention that it matters enormously. That it is not decoration, and it is not sentiment, and it is not the kind of thing that can be explained away by coincidence or circumstance. The necklace is a thread, and Benedict, driven by a guilt that has transformed itself into something far more focused and far more relentless, is about to pull it. And what unravels when he does is going to change absolutely everything. Because the real question was never whether Sophie stole something from Lady Araminta. The real question is what Lady Araminta stole from Sophie before Sophie was old enough to know what was being taken. The necklace should not exist. That is the first thing Benedict understands when he begins looking at it properly, not as a piece of jewelry that Sophie happens to own, not as a sentimental object she has carried through a difficult life, but as an artifact, as a thing with a history, as an object that was made by someone, commissioned by someone, given to someone for a reason. And the reason, the more he examines it, the more it refuses to align with anything he has been told about who Sophie is and where she comes from and how she ended up standing in a world that has spent every moment since her arrival trying to remind her that she does not belong in it. The craftsmanship is wrong. That is the detail that catches him first. Not wrong in the sense of inferior or poorly made. Wrong in the opposite sense entirely. The craftsmanship is too fine, too deliberate, too specific in the way that only objects made for people of a certain standing are specific, carrying in their construction the quiet, unmistakable signature of wealth and lineage, and a social position that has absolutely no business being around the neck of a woman the world has spent years classifying as nobody. The materials are wrong for the story. The design is wrong for the story. Every single thing about this necklace, when examined with the attention it deserves, is wrong for the story that Lady Araminta has been telling about Sophie since Beth. The story that existed before this, the version of Sophie's origins that the world accepted without question because it was offered without complexity, was simple enough. A father of some standing, a mother of modest origins, a child born into circumstances that were complicated enough to explain Sophie's position without making it interesting enough to examine. It was a story designed to be believed and then forgotten, designed to answer just enough questions to prevent anyone from asking more. And for years, it worked, because the world that Bridgerton inhabits is not particularly interested in the origins of women who present themselves without power or claim. It accepts the story it is given and moves on, because moving on is easier and more efficient than curiosity. But Sophie's mother was not of modest origins. She was not the simple, unremarkable figure that Lady Araminta constructed for public consumption and private protection. She was noble, connected, belonging to a world that Sophie was never supposed to know existed, never supposed to have access to, never supposed to be able to claim as her own. And she did not simply fade quietly from that world due to circumstance or misfortune, or any of the soft, acceptable explanations that society reaches for when it does not want to examine something too closely. She was removed from it, deliberately, systematically, by someone who understood exactly what her existence meant and exactly what her daughter's existence would mean if the truth were ever allowed to surface. Lady Araminta understood. She understood from the very beginning, from before Sophie was old enough to walk or speak or have any awareness of the world she had been born into. She understood that Sophie's mother represented a threat, not a social threat or an emotional threat or even a financial threat in the simple sense, a foundational threat, a threat to the entire carefully constructed architecture of Lady Araminta's position, her security, her standing, everything she had built, and everything she intended to keep. And so she did what people like Lady Araminta always do when they identify a threat they cannot simply outmaneuver. She eliminated it, not with violence, with something quieter and more permanent, and in many ways far more cruel. She eliminated it with erasure. Sophie's mother was silenced. Her connections were severed quietly and completely, one by one, until there was nothing left of the life she had lived before Lady Araminta decided that life needed to end. Her history was rewritten. Her origins were buried under a version of events that served Lady Araminta's purposes precisely, and Sophie's understanding of herself not at all. And when Sophie was born, she was born into a version of reality that had already been constructed around her. A version designed to keep her small and ignorant and grateful for whatever scraps of stability she was permitted to have, because a Sophie who did not know who she was could never become someone who threatened what Lady Araminta had stolen. The leaked trailer details suggest that as Benedict begins to uncover the shape of this deception, the scale of it stops him. Not physically. But there are reportedly moments in the trailer where he is shown simply sitting with what he has found, unable to immediately move forward, because the magnitude of what was done to Sophie requires a moment of stillness before it can be acted on. This is not weakness. It is the appropriate response to discovering that the woman you love has been living inside a lie so comprehensive and so deliberately maintained that her entire sense of self was built on ground that someone else poisoned before she ever took her first step on it. And Violet Bridgerton, who is moving alongside Benedict through this investigation with a precision and a quiet ferocity that the leaked trailer details describe as one of the most compelling aspects of Part 2, does not stop moving. She does not pause for stillness or sit with the weight of revelation the way Benedict momentarily does. Violet has lived long enough and watched the world operate with enough clear-eyed attention to understand that the time for absorbing information is a luxury that Sophie does not currently have. The accusation is already out. The whispers are already moving. Every moment that passes without a response is a moment the lie gains ground, settles deeper, becomes harder to dislodge. Violet knows this with the instinctive certainty of someone who has spent decades understanding exactly how power operates and exactly how quickly it can shift when someone decides to use it carelessly. So she moves. She uses every connection she has built over a lifetime of navigating this world with grace and intelligence and the particular kind of influence that comes from being genuinely respected rather than simply feared. She pulls on threads that only she has access to. She has conversations in rooms that most people are neved,